I think about Gabby Douglas when I think about a champion. Gabby Douglas won the gold medal in women's gymnastics in the Olympics, the last Olympics. And she left her family. She went thousands of miles away. And she believed in her heart of hearts that God had destined her to do what she was able to do. She didn't stay and complain and say, woe is me, I'm away from my family, this is not fair, this and that, or being frustrated. But she moved toward where she thought God had destined her to go. She stayed because she had a deep conviction that it was her destiny. It was for her to do. It was given to her by God. Sometimes God will have you stay in a situation even when it's hard, not because of them, but he'll have you stay in a situation because of you. He's trying to shape you. He's trying to transform you. He's trying to mold you. I'm sure I'm speaking to somebody tonight that's wondering, should I stay or should I go? But the question that you need to ask yourself is this: am I staying because there is a deep conviction that God is calling me to stay? Or am I staying because of me? You got to be careful. When you start asking yourself questions, you'll be very surprised on the answers that you get. Because sometimes we're trying to stay not because of our deep conviction that God has called us to stay, but sometimes we're staying because of our deep conviction to show them. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, we want to show them that they're wrong about us. We want to show them that we're not defeated. We want to show them, I'm not running. You're not going to run me off of the church, or you're not going to run me out of my job. You're not going to run me away. Sometimes we're staying, but we're staying for the wrong reasons. But I want you to know that God is not in the midst of that. It sounds noble. I'm going to stay. I'm going to show them. But it's not of God. Why? Because God does not want you to stay somewhere to show them. God wants you to stay to show him. What am I showing God when I say that I'm going to stay and I'm going to stand and I'm going to do it for God? What we're showing God is, God, you're in control. You know what's best for me. I'm going to skin and grin through whatever I need to skin and grin through until you bring me out of darkness into your marvelous light. I'm going to go through it, God, and I'm going to do it because I know that you've told me to stay and to stand. God doesn't want you to stay and to stand to show them. God wants you to stay and stand to show him. We got too many people in the church that are staying and standing, and they're staying and standing not because of any other reason other than to show someone else. And God is not in the midst of that. This situation that we find ourselves in the church or at work or at home, when we say we're going to stay in the stand, but we know God is not wanting us to stay in the stand. God wants us to leave and to learn. What we're doing when we say we're going to stay in the stand is that God is not honored by it, because you're not doing it for God to begin with. God wants you to stay in the stand so you can honor him, that you can give him glory, that you can give him honor, and that you're looking only toward him and not toward anybody else. God wants us to stay in the stand, but he wants us to understand, when you stay and stand, do it because it's about the kingdom. Do it because it's about him, not about the deacons, not about the preachers, not about the pastor, but when you stay and you stand, you do it because of God. I can shout you until you go up into all kinds of tongues. But if you haven't learned anything, if you haven't grown, then what is it about? You can dance all around the church, but if you haven't learned anything that you can apply it to your life, that you can teach somebody else so that they learn, so they can grow in the Lord, then what is it all about? Unless we're learning, unless we're growing. If you're not teaching someone else, then it's all in vain. You can come to church Sunday after Sunday. You can come to church Tuesday after Tuesday. But if you're not trying to grow someone else in the Lord, then what is it really all about? So we got to watch our motives. We got to watch our motives, because sin and jealousy will take root in us. I'll say it again. Sin and jealousy will take root in us. And what will happen when we allow sin and jealousy to take root in us, it'll rip us away from where God would have us to be. Whatever our destiny is, when we allow jealousy to seep in, then we remove ourselves out of the will of God. And that's not the place that the people of God want to be. We want to be in the will of God.